It's July 3rd, and the Cubs have less than an 8% chance to make the playoffs. The trade deadline's at the end of the month, and it's time for Jed Hoyer to show direction, leadership, and be aggressive. Take advantage of the market right now before it changes. We're going to get into that. Also, some good news for the Cubs. Some of their up-and-coming prospects invited to the Major League Baseball Futures game. And those players have a very high likelihood of getting to the majors. And a lot of them are the biggest stars in the game. So we're going to talk about that and more right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying thank you for providing some Cubs content. I know things are tough right now for the Cubs out on the diamond, but there's still half a season left. So we got a lot of room to grow and improve, and we're going to get into all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like I said, everybody, it's Mick Gillespie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel at Broadcaster Mick. And we try to provide you guys the latest Cubs content every single day. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're talking Cubs. And at the beginning of the season, the Cubs came out 17-10 record in April. We thought this was going to be one of those magical seasons. And over the last 2 months, the Cubs have been terrible. They've been one of the worst teams in baseball. And here we are staring at the trade deadline with an opportunity. And the opportunity is to strike before more teams end up on that bubble and decide to sell. You know, could the Reds sell? Could some other teams? Right now, you got three teams that I look at, and they're clearly sellers. Miami, Colorado, and the Cubs in the National League. And, you know, the American League's got a few teams that are bad, but everyone else in the National League's right there in the midst of that playoff picture. So the Cubs are, with the opportunity here, are in a place where they can get some value for some of their players. And they also have pretty good players that could help a team succeed and win the World Series. So here's what Jed Hoyer said a few days ago. He said, I don't think it's time yet for that full conversation. He's still holding out hope that they catch fire like they did last year. And a big part of this is that the internal reports say that this team is underachieving, that they're not living up to their potential, that they still have a chance to make a step and get back on track. But the bottom line is that they're just not there yet. He also said, I think you have to be a realist when you get to that point. You have to make the best decisions for the organization based on the hand you're dealt that year. We'll see what that is. Well, I think we see what that is now. I mean, look, this was before 2 more losses. At the end of the day, I think we talked about it on the show recently. This team's just not good, and they have good players. They have a great manager. We found out that David Ross wasn't the issue. Somehow he got the most out of these guys, I guess, last year. They've had some bad luck. You talk about the injuries, the bullpen, some starters, the guys that went out in the outfield and came back, and they haven't been the same since. Cody Bellinger and Seiya Suzuki, whatever it is, at the end of the day, when your playoff odds in July are 7.3% to make the playoffs and 1.8% to win the division and 0 point something to win the World Series, it's time to internalize and then go out and make decisions based on what's going to be best for the future. And the future is building within the organization with talent, getting rid of contracts, and putting young people in positions to fail and then eventually succeed. You know, and you guys, I mentioned this on a show before. I said, well, you know, Javi Baez didn't struggle and Chris Bryant. Well, I guess they did struggle. We just don't remember. I forgot. Yeah, they did. They did struggle at the beginning of their careers. So did Anthony Rizzo. I remember that one. They've got to go up there, take their lumps, and then start building together. You're starting to see the Pete Crow Armstrong, the Hollywood Pete that we talked about here, but he still isn't getting on base enough. He still doesn't get enough hits. But now you're starting to see him play great defense when he runs the bases. He's getting better and better, more confident. The speed of his game's improving, but there's still a lot that can be improved on, and it's going to have to be improved on before he is what you would call a regular star player, and there's other guys that are going to have to go through that same process. But the other part of it too is if you wait too long, other teams could decide they're going to sell. And if that happens, then the market is going to change. And right now, I still believe that it is a seller's market, that there's a lot of buyers. There's a lot of teams that feel like they have a chance. And you hear reports, John Morosi talking on 670 The Score, said that the Cubs are signaling that they're open to selling later this month. Well, what are you waiting on? I mean, what are you waiting on? You think that all of a sudden that this team that loses every night is just going to figure it out and start winning every night? The problem is we saw this last year, and then they started winning, and then it was fool's gold. We got to the end of the season, and then they reverted back to losing again, and then you traded away a starter who's a starter for the Nationals and DJ Hers. You traded away Nelson Velasquez, who I know was designated for assignment and had flashes of being good, but you got back a pitcher that you got rid of because he wasn't any good. When you could have developed those guys yourself, you could have went out there and sold last year and took advantage of a market that didn't have any players that were really worth trading for. It was a mess last year, right? Besides maybe Juan Soto. But you know what I'm saying. The bottom line is that right now the market tells you that there's teams that need players. The sooner that they can get them, the better they're going to be. And maybe you make a deal like Theo Epstein did right around the 4th of July when he made the deal that sent Jeff Samardzija to the Oakland A's, got back Addison Russell. There were more players in that deal, but Addison Russell turned out to be the shortstop that helped you win the World Series. So you got to get a direction going and move there, because the longer that the Cubs wait, I think that that this market could see more teams fall into the sellers category. And then all of a sudden now there's less demand for the talent that you have. And I think there's some players that are right at the top of the list. Nico Horner could go to the Mariners, maybe to the Atlanta Braves are looking for some players right now, although they don't have a lot of prospects in their system. The Mariners do. We talked about the San Francisco Giants needing some players. The Phillies need some players. The Yankees need some players. You know that the Mets are going to want to try to do something because they're in New York. And all of a sudden now, after Grimace showed up, they're a contender. We just played them. Other teams are going to be interested. Maybe a Baltimore. Look, they made the Corbin Burns trade, and that's turned out to be a great trade for Milwaukee as well. And so the sooner you get to that point where you decide that you're going to do that, you go in a direction, I think the better off it's going to be. Cody Bellinger, I'd say Seiya Suzuki, although I haven't heard his name come up in any trade talks. I got a feeling that he's someone that could help a team win. Nico Horner, would hurt to get rid of Nico, but you have a lot of depth in that area in the organization. And we're going to talk about some of that depth going to the futures game here in a second. You need catchers. If you could make a deal and get a young, up-and-coming, truly star catcher, I think that would be good for the organization. Who's got those available? Who's willing to trade that? Edgar Caro ended up being traded for for Lucas Giolito last year at the deadline, and that's going to turn out to be a wonderful deal for the White Sox. The sooner you move in that direction, though, the better off that you are. And it sounds like the Cubs are slowly getting to that point. But you watch this team play every night, and it's my point, and there's nothing there that tells you that this team's going to turn into a contender. All right, a couple of notes to get into here. First off, man, really, really sad to see this, that Brennan Davis has fractured his back. I think that this could be the end of Brennan Davis with the Cubs. Obviously, they'll help him get back to health. They're going to have to figure out what to do with him on the 40-man. We saw this year when he was healthy and he was motivated for about 2 weeks, he was maybe the best player on earth, then got hurt again, then came back, and now he's hurt again. And it's just been unfortunate for him. in his career. So this is an extended injury. We wish him the very best as he tries to scratch and claw and get healthy again. But could be the end of a former number one Cubs prospect that things just didn't work out. Bad luck, bad timing, and injuries. Now, some good news for the Cubs. 3 players invited to the Major League Baseball futures game. A guy that I thought got shafted last year, Owen Casey, when it was B.J. Murray and Pete Crow Armstrong with the Cubs, both in Double-A, that got a chance to go to the futures game. And I thought, well, what about Owen Casey? And I think he thought, what about me? Well, he earned his way on this year. This is the future of right field for the Cubs. Make sure that if you haven't seen him yet, check it out. This guy barrels the ball up. He's what the Cubs got back from the Padres in the Yu Darvish deal. He's one of the highest drafted Canadian players of all time. I think he might be the highest drafted outfielder from Canada, or at least he was. But he's fantastic. He's a young guy at 22. He plays great defense, got a good arm, smart kid. He's the kind of guy that could end up being a staple on the Cubs for a long time. So he's exciting. Moises Ballesteros, who was in Double-A hitting, now in Triple-A, great hitter. He's been hot, left-handed bat, can do it all with the bat. There's no position for him. That's the problem with him. They've tried to put him at catcher. I see some of you guys are hopeful that he'll be able to catch. He's just not good at the position, and his body just doesn't fit the position. He could do it. It'd probably take a lot of work in the off season. I'm talking about transforming his body, but to be able to take the pounding of being behind the plate. Great hands, power, excellent hitter, makes contact, and there's a spot for him in the big leagues with his bat. And then Matt Shaw, first-round pick from 2 years ago, really starting to excel in some areas on the diamond over the last couple of weeks, and a middle infielder. And he could be the future for the Cubs at second base if they trade Nico Horner. But congratulations to those 3 guys. They'll head to Texas for the futures game. And then the guy I think got shafted is James Triantos. He's the Owen Casey from this year. Could have been on this team. One of the best young players in the country, one of the best young players in the world, really, when you want to get into it. And someone that when you watch him play on a day in and day out basis, you realize that this guy also could be the future for the Cubs at second base. And the fact that the Cubs have went down the tank in the big leagues maybe saves them from making a bad trade and getting rid of Shaw or Triantos. And I think long-term that's going to be a good thing for the Chicago Cubs. So that's where we are right now. Again, the Cubs 12 games back of the Brewers. The Cubs take on the Phillies again tonight. Shota Imanaga will take on Zach Wheeler, and we'll see if the Cubs can get back on track again. Shota, one of the players I would not trade if I was the Cubs. I would keep him. Yeah, I would keep him, some of the young guys, but everyone else is expendable to me. What do you guys think? Get in the comments section. Let me know. We're taking one step at a time here, trying to figure out exactly what it's going to take for this franchise to get moving in the right direction again. This season has been a colossal disappointment, and I just feel like they are who they are. And by moving some players out, get younger, find some guys that are around the same age and development level as the players that are in Double and Triple-A, because this wave is about to get to the big leagues, and we'll see if they can, do the things that they've done all the way up through, and that's win. This group has won championships at every single level they've been in, so we'll see if they're able to do that. I would love to see them get to the big leagues together, the Pete Crow Armstrongs, the Owen Caseys, those type of guys, and make an impact on the roster. All right, thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon. Ant will be on tomorrow morning. If something breaks, we'll jump on with that as well. I'm Mick Gillespie. Go Cubs.